Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage. My pleasure to have you on board. Do us a favor, drop us a little line there in the chat letting us know where you're coming from. And if you're watching us on the replay, thanks so much for hanging out and joining us. I'm popular already. So here is the question that we want to be knowing right away. Put it in the chat with 3 question marks. What about streaming is either totally mysterious, giving you a hard time, or if you're just starting out, just say, hey, just starting out, I don't even know what to ask. That'd be awesome. All right, it is my distinct honor and pleasure. I've had some amazing guests on this show, but tonight is very special to me. There is an application that I have been using called Ecamm Live, and it has basically revolutionized how I do what I do. First of all, if we haven't met, my name's Doug Doppler. There's some new people on the stream tonight. Welcome aboard. I have a history as a guitar player demonstrating gear for a ton of great manufacturers. And so in the process of having done that, I've been around cameras for a long time. In fact, the camera you're seeing me on is something that I started shooting videos with in this room 10 years ago. And so I've been around this for a long time. I love digital media, but what we're getting a chance to do here tonight is to take video into that next zone of where musicians and content creators and music educators are heading. It's a very special thing. And so because of that, I have the privilege of having some of my favorite people as guests on the show ever. So we've got Ken and Glen Aspelagh. They are the founders of Ecamm Live. I use this application every day when I'm streaming. I use it when I'm creating videos. I use it when I'm teaching all day long on Saturday, and I'm basically running that into Zoom. I could not do what I do without this application. So with no further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Ken and Glen Aspelagh. What's going on, guys?
Hey, Doug.
Hey, good evening.
Okay. Hey, I got a question. How do I silence the sound on the incoming chat?
Oh, that's actually easy to do. Go to the preferences.
Yep.
And there's a checkbox for it that says, what does it say, Glenn?
It's the first checkbox in the general.
The very first checkbox.
Thank you very much.
That was so easy. Ask us all easy questions today.
Oh, we're gonna have so much fun. So first of all, as I mentioned before, this application has completely revolutionized my world. And so in the midst of that, how did you guys get started doing this? What was the impetus for going, hey, you know what, we want to build this streaming application, and did it actually start as a streaming application?
Yeah, it totally did, which was really cool. I've seen a lot of apps that have evolved over time, started out as one thing and became another thing. The cool part about Ecamm Live is it was completely thought up from the very beginning as a way to stream out to Facebook. It has actually, it has certainly evolved over time to do other things. Like you mentioned, you were using it for Zoom. That kind of was something that was totally unexpected. But it was something where we wanted to give people this ability to go out to Facebook without having to, do all the crazy things you need to do to stream out to Facebook.
We were actually hunting around for a new app idea. We've been doing video-related apps for 20 years, and we were trying to figure out what was next. And our strategy is always, try to find something that's up and coming, so you can kind of ride that wave. You want to be riding the wave up. So we had, 10, 15 years ago. How long ago was it? Maybe not that long, but we got early into an app that was related to iPhones, and then we just rode that iPhone wave up. And then we were looking at what the next new thing was. And I've said this before, but I was driving in my car, and I saw that a physical billboard for Facebook Live. And I just said, wow, they are pushing that out pretty hard if they actually have bought a billboard for it. And we started looking at how people go live, and your options at the time were either via the phone. They hadn't even rolled out, a desktop browser way to do it yet. Or you could get a really expensive, really complicated tool that, like you said, kind of had evolved over time and kind of added streaming as a feature, but wasn't really made for streaming. So we thought, can we come in the middle with a simple, reasonably priced tool for Mac users? And that's what we originally made, was something super simple. Now, over the years, we've added and added and added and added based on what our customers want and ask for, and we're still doing that, but trying to keep it simple so that when you open it up for the first time, you just get that go live button and you're not scratching your head trying to figure out where to click.
Awesome. Well, I think one of the things that I've seen over and over people saying is how easy the application is to use. But like I've spent the past 2 months totally immersing myself in kind of figuring out what are all the different parameters that one could potentially want to think about tweaking in the streaming universe, and having an application that's really straightforward to use but has tremendous breadth and depth is awesome. So let's start off with some questions, because I want to make sure that we kind of, and I'm going to poke into the chat here in just a sec, cover the range of things. For people who are just starting out streaming, what are a couple of these stupid freshman mistakes that people make, and what are the things that they can do to avoid them? And I will I want to preclude this by saying one thing. What the guys did that was really smart to test the audio, there's a record function, and that's, by the way, how I'm shooting all my gear demos now, directly into Ecamm Live, because it's awesome. But basically, they were like, hey, go into record mode, record the audio, and then play it back and make sure that the levels are right. And I was like, oh, that's so smart, because it's a virtual sound check. So with that said, what are some of the common things that people get wrong, and what are some of the easy things they can do to solve those problems before they occur?
Yeah, the audio is a big one, because the audio is the one thing you don't actually get to know about, right? Like, you're setting up, you see your camera image, you hearing your sound effects, you've got everything perfect. You think you've got everything perfect, and then you go live, and a minute in, your audience starts to say, "Yeah, it sounds like there's a Mack truck running behind you, or you've got
I can't hear you at all. Just
concert hall reverb, or you're completely silent." And really, the only, I mean, one. Hopefully, you noticed that you were completely silent on your little your audio levels. But something like an echo, you're really not going to pick up on until you hear it. So what I was suggesting to Doug was, Ecamm Live just has a mode called Record Only, which just streams to nowhere. And just do a quick recording, test, play it back, and that's just a really quick, easy way to not mess up your audio. And this is something that Ken and I do all the time. When we stream, we always somehow have something wrong with our audio, and it's so now we're just very careful to check that and make sure it sounds okay. And another thing on that note is getting a nice microphone. It's so important to have a mic, and it doesn't take much. Really, any professional or medium level mic is just going to have a USB connection. You plug it into your Mac, and you've just quadrupled your sound quality simply by not using the built-in mic on the Mac, which is just like, could be right under your finger, or is going to be picking up noise from the keyboard or the trackpad or the mouse or the fan. Absolutely, just go to Amazon, get a Yeti or some sort of a podcasting mic that's USB capable, and just plug it in. Now,
I would recommend getting a Shure mic as well. Shure has a really wide range of different price ranges. SHURE, if you're not an audio person. They actually sent us a bunch of mics to try, but we're not an affiliate or anything, but they sent us some demos all the way from their low end mic, which is this, like, it's like a plastic sphere USB mic, and we've been using that a lot at the office. And then they sent us this heavier metal version. The Doug, I think I saw that you had one there.
Just as I switched the scene off, yeah. This is the Shure. This is actually what I call the Sean Cannell mic.
that thing. It's awesome.
It's great, and there's a bunch of different basic presets on it, and it's plug and play. And what's great is I'm going to actually riff on that if you're good with it, since you kind of handed off there. One of the things that's really cool is it's got a rubber base on the main part of the body of the microphone as well as the stand. And one of the common things that I've noticed is transfer noise. If you're using a laptop and you've got your laptop on your desktop and you start making this noise on the desktop, it actually transfers through to the microphone. So you hear this that's happening the entire time in the background. So what's really neat about this is it has all these different patterns. It's plug and play. It is USB micro. And so, that's kind of easy plug and play. As you were saying, sir.
Yeah, we really like that mic.
One thing we should kind of put out there, though, is like Ken and I, computer programmers, been doing live streaming for a couple of years now, but I kind of have the feeling that Doug knows a lot more about mics than we do.
Yeah, let's leave the mic chatter to him, because honestly, we are something of audio newbies. I come from the video world. I could do video in my sleep, but when it comes to we'll get a message from a customer about their audio setup, and a lot of times we don't know what they're talking about. There's a lot about audio that I'm learning as I go, and the audio in Ecamm, it's just gonna get better over time and more powerful over time. Right now, we allow you to bring in two, either a main mic and a secondary mic into Ecamm. And if you want more power than that, if you want the ability to control different channels from a big Apollo mixer or some such, we recommend using a tool called Loopback, which is not our software. It's a software made by a different company, but it's this magical tool that allows you to have complete control over your mix. And I think that Doug is using that to have all of his equipment come together into Ecamm, into the stream.
Is that right, Doug? You keep setting me up with gold there, my friend. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up. Let's see here. Come on, let me pull up.
Getting started on YouTube, it can seem
whoa,
wait.
Do
you need a business plan? How do you get financing? Do I need a
Well, there you go. You never know what's going to quite happen. I said Sean Cannell, and there we got Heather. So you guys should be looking at, there you go. That is the insanity that is my world of Loopback. But what it is basically, oh, there we go. It's a virtual patch bay. And it is a really amazing application. And so as you're kind of in there, let's see if I can do a little bit of moving around here without breaking anything. So basically the audio comes in here, and then you add different devices, of which I've got a small sea of them. And then they kind of go into the main kind of left and right feeds. And that's kind of what we use to kind of bring back into these various applications. Heading back into this guy and heading back to, there we go. So the thing about this is...
I start getting a little confused with the third column there, the monitors. So I understand the input and the output.
So, first of all, hopefully sooner than later, we're going to have a chance to have a serious geek out conversation, but not at the expense of everybody that's on here, because I will be very happy to rabbit trail with you about this. But the problem is, and so I think what we're going to end up doing, I guess it's just going to be like that, is we're going to start off here, and we're going to deep dive right away. Because I think I want to make sure that the people that are new to this don't feel left out, but also the people that want the deep dive also get that experience. So one of the biggest problems with Mac audio...
The simple use case... Oh, sorry. Can I give the simple use case for what people... we recommend Loopback for quite a lot. So say you're just like say you're a magician... not a magician. We do have them too using the app. But say you're a musician and you have your vocal mic and you have your instruments. Now, typically, the instruments are stereo, and mic is mono, and they say, I don't understand how to bring it in so that my music is stereo and the mic mono's on both channels. And we say, like, oh, you need to get loop back, and that allows them to wire up the mic to both channels, the left and right, and the music to the two channels. So like for the simple case, it kind of saves the day as a software patch bay, which was a great term for it that you used. For people who have large, powerful 32-channel soundboards, it allows them to pick just which channels they want to be coming into Ecamm. But it can be dangerous. If people set it up and they don't know what they're doing, they end up with insane back loop back, which is I guess why they called the app that, and crazy noises because they've got it set up wrong and everything's coming in 9 times, and it's hard for us to help them. So I'm just gonna send them to you from now on whenever a customer has a loopback question. Oop, I lost the sound here.
I have to turn my foot switch. So I saw a comment come through that you guys had a little bit of an echo, and that was probably coming back because I actually am committing the evil sin of having you guys up in my monitors. But I've got a foot switch from Radial called the Hotshot 48V, which basically allows me to have the microphone go into that, and then I can foot switch the microphone off. And this is perfect for musicians who want to be able to talk but not sing through the microphone, and then when it's time to play, not have the audio bleed into that microphone. So this is from Radial. One of the things that I didn't get a chance to do that in preparation for today's show that I promised some folks to do, that I will be putting together a kit.co. If you just go to kit.co, and it should be under Doug Doppler, a range of different products that I would suggest using that are really, really, really good for what it is that you need to do around these variety of things. So with that said, the audio bleeding into the mic is one of the biggest problems that people have, like, because all of a sudden your guitar starts playing and you start peaking. And so one of the things that I love, and again, I'll co-chair with you guys if you're good with it. There's a sound level meter that I have up at the top of my screen, and I'm always looking at it. So literally, there was a minute ago, they were just a little bit hot, so I gently eased it back. And if you're in the yellow, that's about the right place for it to be. And managing audio is really cool. What you set me up for is that there are a lot of people that are kind of on this journey. There's a lot to learn. And the goal of tonight is to kind of go through with some big and some smaller brushstrokes and kind of go, here are the different things that you want to be aware of. Here are some of the things that you want to just kind of know as you get started. And here are some of the deep end sort of things that happen. Being able to mute the microphone when you want to mute it is a big deal. And we will be doing some videos on my YouTube channel. And this is the thing is that there is a small collection. Let's see if I can bring up the desktop here. Let's see here. There we go. There's a small collection of goodies, including my dinner plate. Hang on. All right, one of the great things about Ecamm is you can zoom, like selecting this. There we go. Logitech. There we go. And, oh, I've locked my screen. Hang on a second. You're enjoying, as I'm showing off my dinner plate. There we go. One of the great things is you can do this and this. And so
right.
The ability to have this type of control and then all these different devices, if I were just starting out streaming and I was looking at all this stuff, I would be like, I have no idea what that stuff does. And holy cow, that's a lot of bright shining lights. What the heck am I going to do? So as we kind of move on a little bit further here tonight, I'm going to walk through some of these different devices here. They're a huge help. And it's, again, it's just kind of conquering one thing at a time. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Wow, it is a little overwhelming, that desk you've got there. That's a lot of
How
stuff.
do you remember which keyboard to type on? Is it ever confusing to have four of them?
Most, honestly, it's a workflow. And actually, okay. So I'm going to take that, and I tell you what, we're going to riff here. We're going to be in jam mode is the way this will work. So workflow is a really important topic. And this is one of the things is that I want to run through a couple of things, regardless of who you are, where you are, what you're doing. ideally what you want to do, and by the way, another person that's associated with the team with you guys is Luria Petrucci of Live Streaming Pros. And one of her videos is on just having a great run of show. And ideally having some sort of either very loose or very tight script so you know where you're going to start and you know where you're going to end. And so the idea is if you know the things that you're going to cover, it means that you're not rambling, kind of going, oh, I ran out of ideas. So you've got bullets, there's a flow, you know what you want to be talking about. So if you're a guitar player, knowing that you're going to speak for X period of time, you're then going to play, you're going to talk, you're going to play, and then you're out of there. If you're a business person, you're going to make an introduction, you potentially have some sort of video bumper, and then you talk about your points, and then you wrap it up, and then you send them your Kajabi page, and you say, thank you so much, I'll see you next week, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. But these workflows, when you go into this, because here's the things I will say this, is you're going into something where there are people who do this every day, or myself, I do it 2 days a week, but I teach in Zoom all day Saturday. So I would think of that as streaming. So I'm living inside the streaming universe 24/7. So the concept of one, I'm not nervous in front of the camera anymore. I'm not really even that self-conscious of playing guitar, even though it's kind of like if you blow it when you're streaming, it's there. But the idea of kind of, you're stepping into a universe where the people that have been doing it have been doing it. So they're comfortable with themselves. They've figured out most of the mistakes not to make. And in turn, they have a workflow of how they approach what they're doing. So my suggestion would be, watch the people you're inspired by and make some notes about how they come in, how they segue into whatever kind of bumper they've got, how they work their content, and how they wrap. So that way you can kind of go, oh, there's a process to this. And in turn, there's a pre-production process, which for me starts in the afternoon. I will go on and test YouTube and Facebook a couple of times because it gets a little persnickety, because you never know when it's going to just bite you right there. And tonight what I did was I actually went on, I started going on a half an hour early, and then ended up by the time we adjusted a few things here with Skype, which is what they're coming in on. It was 15 minutes in advance, but I wanted to have a nice big bumper so that when we turned the lights on at 6 o'clock, you weren't waiting, and Ken and Glen weren't like, hey, this is a good experience. So that sort of strategy is good. You guys are laughing. What's so funny? I told you I was going to make you laugh.
I thought I thought it was great that 15 minutes when the viewers were seeing that countdown, we were on the Skype call with Doug, and it was very interesting to see how the attention to detail of making sure that everything is streaming, everything is shared, the places you need it. I think that is the alternative is just to sort of hit go live and hope that everything went to the right place. And I just thought that was 15 minutes very well spent, for sure. I mean, it was,
yeah.
It especially if you don't have any sort of like an assistant that can actually do things like frantically message you that you're not live every place you think you're live, or handle sharing things out. I mean, having that countdown to get everything going is a great strategy, for sure.
Well, and
yeah, people have asked us recently, like, how long should my countdown be? It really depends how long you need. I mean, I think Doug used his whole 15 minutes pretty effectively. We set a countdown a few weeks ago for 4 minutes, and then it was kind of awkward. We're like, we're ready now, and then we just had to wait for the 4 minutes and pretend to be doing things for that period of time.
We did check and make sure we were live everywhere, but
yeah.
I think that the 15 minutes was great. Yeah.
Now, there is a downside to the 15-minute buffer if you don't know how to layer it. And again, this is about the process thing. This is actually really cool. First of all, I love the work you guys have put in. And actually, I'm gonna just say one really important thing. There are some other great products out there in the marketplace. So there's other stuff out there. But one of my favorite things about these guys, if you watch their Q&A sessions, they really care about what they're doing. Like, they are working crazy hours. And, one of the competitors is owned by Logitech. This is two brothers that and it's so funny to watch the two of them talk when they're in Q&A. It's kind of like the two minds thinking as one. It's fascinating because they got the double the RAM. The point being is that their commitment to making a great product and their commitment to the end users is something that you don't see much. And it's actually one of the rare instances in technology you can actually interact with the people that founded the company or are still actually creating the updates for it. That's nuts. That just doesn't happen,
Well,
and that is a really
thanks, Doug.
important thing.
That means a lot to us. And by the way, if you need to get in touch with us, you can send a message to our assistant. Just kidding.
Who Katie, by the way, is awesome. All right, so let's jump in a little bit further.
I just have to point out first.
Absolutely.
Katie's not our assistant. She's our marketing manager. But when we're doing lives, she assists. It's getting absolutely not our assistant. I think she's a marketing expert who also assists when we do lives, along with Midori. They both get on there and they answer the people's questions in the comment section, because we can't do it while we're live, and we get this rapid fire stream of questions in the comments, and it's awesome to have somebody in there like pasting links to what we're talking about or answering the people's questions on the fly. So if you're going live and you can have a friend or a coworker sitting there on the comment stream managing it during the live, things will go much more smoothly than if it's just you by yourself. But it can be a one-person show or a multi-person effort.
Wrong button. One of the things that I saw her do the other day that was really smart was in one of the live streams she sent out, hey, make sure you've got it selected so when our videos go live, you'll see them. And it's just like really smart stuff that's not kind of like, hey, how can I reel in some more money? It's just like, how can we stay connected? And making sure that you're following you guys on Facebook. I'm just like, it's really smart. And she's just doing it not like every 2 seconds, but it felt really natural. And there's just a great rhythm to that. All right, let me do this. We have had some questions come through here, and I think it would be judicious to see if there's anything juicy. While I'm doing that, gentlemen, can you care to talk about some of the other freshman mistakes that?
Oh, I've got a good one.
Yes, please.
So we hear about every day from musicians, especially, who say, my sound is terrible in Ecamm. And this is so sad to me. But they say it sounds great in other places. I've got this $5,000 soundboard, and when I go live with Ecamm, everyone's telling me it sounds like either underwater or muffled or just awful. And it's always the same problem, and it's a understandable mistake. But built into Ecamm is an automatic voice processor, also known as the echo canceller, and it's designed to improve speech, take out any echo that might be coming from the computer speakers back into the mic, remove feedback. But if you are playing music into the echo canceller, it will ruin your music. You audio people will cry, musicians will cry. So you want to make sure, if you're taking the advice of this stream and creating an awesome, spending a lot of time and effort on your sound, and especially if you're doing music, you want to make sure the echo cancellation setting is not turned on, unchecked. Uncheck that box. Just don't forget to do that, because otherwise, I mean, if you're playing a rock and roll song, the echo canceller is just going to be like trying to remove the echo out of your rock and roll song and out of your drum beat, and it will sound weird. And you'll write to us and you'll say, why does my sound so weird? And we'll tell you, turn off the echo canceller. So that's a real rookie mistake that a lot of people make all the time. So,
and it's
I
your
just want
fault.
to throw that one out there.
A little later on in the show, I will open up Zoom and show people that same preference of basically, so you've got your original audio. And to put that in musician terms, all these applications, the biggest potential customer is businesses who want an application that's rock solid and secure. which is one of the reasons you guys are going to be bringing in a guest function very soon as opposed to being on Skype. By the way, we just got a much better connection on both of you guys. So whatever happened on the Eastern Seaboard there, it's better. So the thing about audio is it's made for the speaking voice, and anything else is presumed to be background noise. So all these applications, whether it's Skype or it's Zoom, they are designed in such a way that they try and eliminate that background noise, and guitar with echo and snare drums and all of that is perceived to be background noise. And so they strip that out, which is why, especially in Zoom, what happens is playing along and then all of a sudden it does this nosedive. And so once you learn how to take that out of the equation and present the original audio, and I have had amazing audio quality, it's just a matter of knowing how to get in and out, and there will be a YouTube video on that. I have a question here. Let's see if I can bring this on to, there we go. I don't know if it appeared on the, click to, no, hold on. All right. Nope. Oh, there we go. Ha ha! Oh, look at that. You guys are awesome. Okay, so Aaron said this, adding like a tip jar. So is there a tip jar plugin that somewhere else is available, or is that also, when are you guys going to be putting one in natively?
The tip jar thing is tricky because, I mean, like that, those tips have to be going somewhere, right? So typically that would be on the actual platform itself, like Facebook or YouTube, where they're collecting the donations and passing it on to you. YouTube has a nice facility for, they call them super chats. Facebook, I think, has something where you can at least donate to, I know they have it for charities. I don't know if they've opened it up to everyone else. But really what you're looking for is what we call a widget. I don't know if you've taken a look at that before. But these widgets are hosted by third parties, and they're essentially a website with a transparent background that you can overlay over your chat. And they're not, the viewers can't click them, but they provide that visual feedback that something's happening during your live broadcast. Like the simplest example of a widget would be subscriber alert. So when someone subscribes to your YouTube channel, that third-party service is linked into YouTube, gets a notification that someone subscribed to you, and then it puts a little notification into the widget, and Ecamm Live will overlay that widget on your broadcast. So if you had a widget right now and someone subscribed, you'd see a little thing pop up in the corner, and maybe there's a sound effect, and it would go ding ding, you've got a subscriber. So that's a basic widget. A tip jar is another example of a widget. So if you somehow followed a link in the description or click something in YouTube, that widget will display a nice little animation of maybe some money going into a jar. Now, some of these widgets are not quite working with Ecamm, and I think at least the one tip jar I tried did not work properly. I don't know why. But it's a work in progress to get these widgets working properly.
What about this, like, super chats? Is that what you mean?
Super chats are a great way to do it with YouTube, and those don't require a widget. They'll come right through to the comments window. If your channel's monetized, people can essentially just send you money, and you'll get notified in Ecamm Live with in all manner of ways when you do that.
Yeah, as far as optimizing the app for musicians, in other ways, one thing that I would like to do going forward is do a little bit of what people are needing loopback for right now, because the loopback is, it's $100. I always hate to send someone over to tell them to spend another $100 just to do a simple audio route. So one thing I'd love to do for musicians is have a simple channel routing interface, so that somebody who just needs to combine a few things together can do it without needing to break out another complicated tool. But we don't want to make the app too complicated or require people to use that interface. So it will be something in there just for people who need it, to say, I've got this 16-channel mixer, I only want channels 3 and 4, just to allow musicians to have a little bit more control than they do now over the channels coming out of their USB interface. Right, Glenn? Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's really whenever it really is required. I mean, when you look at any interface that's more than two channels, what right now Ecamm Live is just going to take all the channels and mix them together, and that's probably what you want for a two-channel interface, but that's probably not what you want for a larger audio interface. You probably only want certain channels. Some of those channels might even be monitor channels that you definitely don't want to be mixed into your broadcast. And so we really need some sort of a channel mapping screen for musicians. Would you agree, Doug?
Yes. The great thing about the way you've mapped the overlays is that you've put ones that are basically global. Like now the countdown's done. Because I had my logo in the countdown as like, and I went to put it as my global overlay that's in all the scenes, showing all scenes, and I was like, oh snap, it's on top of my logos. I'm like, oh, by the way, and I will jump around a little bit. Put your logos in the upper right hand corner. Why? Because when you're streaming, the live button's in the left hand corner, and it just totally emaciates your logo. And I actually love putting the logo in the left hand corner, but I don't like seeing the live thing over the top of it because then people can't actually see your logo. So yes, I think a rudimentary mixer that would allow people to recognize sources would be great. And because honestly, and I will say the one thing about Loopback, it's for $100, you can instantiate it on multiple computers. For those of you that don't speak plugins, what that means is that you can use it on one computer, and if you want to start using it on a second computer, they don't hit you again for another $100, which I think is actually really cool. Because when I went to use it on a second computer, I fully expected to have to pay the second $100, which I was willing to do because it's a great plugin. But all right, so while we're there, if you guys are good with it, I'm going to walk through some of the different mic solutions here because I think that would be good. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna.
I'd be very interested in that too.
Okay. Desktop cam. All right, first of all, I have not had a chance to try this out, but holy cow, look at this. This is an XL, and I'm blatantly going to do a video on this. So this is USB 2 to XLR. So basically it means one of the guys in chat was talking about the different mics they use. Essentially this means that you can use any of your high-end mics so long as it actually works. And for like 13 or 14 bucks, whatever I paid for it. And again, this will be one of the things, so long as it works, it'll appear in my kit.co thing. I'll post that link on my socials very soon. But the thing is that to be able to take any microphone and use it with this is great. I have this little Shure guy here. And gosh, I've forgotten the model number, but again, that'll be on the kit.co thing. This, by the way, if you're looking for a great mobile solution, this is a Shure, it's not, I was starting to say SM7B. This is the MV88 Plus, and basically it's got this great little Manfrotto little baby tripod on here. You stick your iPhone in here, and this microphone has multiple patterns. It's got a great app that comes with it, and it works and sounds great. It is a wonderful device. So if you're needing to just kind of go, hey, I want to set this on my desktop without destroying anything, and just be able to do some really quick point and shoot video, it makes it really easy to do that. Now, the other thing that people are going to endeavor with are headsets. Now, I am not a fan of headsets because, honestly, I never actually had to do... we lost somebody. They'll come back. So I never had to do, like braces when I was a kid. So, like, the headset, but that would have been a bad memory. The thing about this particular one, it's from DPA, who makes some of the best microphones in the business. This is like it's like an $800 or $900 headset. This is not cheap, but there's the thing about it is it is extremely low profile. It basically, without going through too much rigmarole here, let's see if I can do this easily.
I wanted something like that, and I looked it up, and I couldn't believe how expensive they were.
But it's really,
but yeah.
Well, here's the good news is that I know somebody. So we'll talk after. So I mean, but here's the thing: is like I don't want to look like an aerobics instructor. Like I'm already in my 50s, right? It's just like people are already thinking like, when's he gonna whip out the Dokken or So, but if you look at that profile, that is a gorgeous microphone. And the thing about this, and it's obviously not plugged in right now. Again, the neat thing about all this stuff is I'm going to make YouTube videos. Here's the thing: I'm at the beginning of rebooting my YouTube presence with Ecamm Live. So this isn't a big commercial moment, but I'm just saying this is a moment where a bunch of the things that a bunch of you are going to be doing, I'm just doing it too. This microphone, there was a video that I did for Line 6 where I had this thing. They said it looked like a mole on my face. It's embarrassing to go back to this big black thing, and it looked terrible. This is gorgeous, and the audio fidelity is ridiculous. It also has a little, basically an interface, and there's a built-in iPhone app. And so the fidelity, you can get in and out of lots of different places. It's amazing. While we're on the subject of, there we go, devices. So this is the Cloud Lifter. So for those of you who are using something like an SM7B and going, wow, I just can't get enough level, this is going to solve that problem. And so there we go, right setup. It's upside down to me, but that's okay. So this allows you to add that extra level in there. This is really important if you're using something like an SM7B, which is a Shure microphone. Now, there is a lot to be said about a mixer. And this little guy right here, the folks at Yamaha were kind enough to send this up. They rushed it to get it to me. This arrived yesterday. This little baby here, it's the AG03. Without boring you with all the things that it does, this is one of the smartest pieces of technology. And the most important thing is there's your USB out, right? And the thing, briefly, let's switch back to our other, what are we here? There we go. The thing is that there's one of the things we'll get into as we start talking about megabits per second and frames per second, because the frames per second thing is one of the places eventually people will go wrong. So if you got cameras that are freezing or you're having issues where the video is looking choppy, quite often it's because you've mismatched your frame rates. So the point being is USB 2. And this is kind of the interesting thing, although, well, I'm just going to make a left turn. No, I got one last little piece here. This is the iRig HD2. So this is an audio interface for guitar. And it's also, I think it's basically designed, I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I basically bought it specifically, basically for you guys. And also the new Joe Satriani plugin, the folks at IK were kind enough to send that. And everything like this is back ordered. So I'll be using that to demo that. I think we can segue into, hang on, wait a second. Here we go. Woohoo! Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There we go. Capture cards. Okay. So there is a lot of noise about this little device right here. So this is the Camlink 4K from Elgato. First of all, anybody that's watching, it is your lucky day. If you thought, well, no, I'm not giving it away. But if you thought you couldn't get one, you're wrong. So all you need to do is go to the Elgato website, go to the Camlink 4K, basically click Buy Now, and it basically populates the shopping cart. Don't go to the affiliates down at the bottom, but populates the shopping cart. And when you click through, it takes you over to their parent company, and you can literally buy it for $129.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
That's a good
boom.
tip.
And no, do not go out and buy a bunch of them and put them on eBay.
We love the Camlink 4K. We use it whenever we stream from one of the Canon's cameras that we have. We come right out the HDMI port into the Camlink 4K, and we're not always using the full 4K functionality of it, but it will handle whatever format the camera is sending. When we first got it, we were so excited to try the 4K functionality. And what we found was that, and this is a tip for anybody who wants 4K, is that you need a special HDMI cable for this. You know, we bought a special Canon RP camera that had 4K out. We bought the Camlink 4K. We wrote code to add 4K functionality to the app. We connected everything all together, and we still weren't getting 4K. We were like, what is going on? We're not getting 4K. And what we found out was that we had to go buy a special ultra mega HDMI cable. I don't know the terminology, but a regular HDMI cable would not carry the 4K signal from the Canon to the Camlink. once we plugged that in, the right cable, it worked great. And then you send that out to YouTube, your viewers might actually be watching you in 4K if they have a screen that is even big enough to show that many pixels. The other thing the Cam Link does, which is cool, it will bring the sound from the camera mic into your broadcast as well. It acts as an audio source. And what some customers are doing is actually adding more than one Cam Link to their stream, to their Mac at once. Now, you got to be a little careful because these things are really CPU intensive, but 2 or 3 Cam Links, it's doable. It's not the best way to do a multi-camera shoot because they're all running at once. The best way is to use a video switcher device. But if you just want to run 2 or 3 Canons into your Mac to have a couple different camera angles, you can do it by just connecting more than one Cam Link to a USB hub. I was talking to someone yesterday who's doing painting streams, and he has one camera at his painting and one camera at himself and one camera at his palette of paint, and they're all running through Cam Links. So cool device and pretty reasonably priced. Unless you need 3 of them, then
That's awesome.
you shell.
First of all, I was just kind of poking into the chat. Hello to everybody. And again, thanks so much for joining us. So this is the interesting thing. This is my EOS R. But the funny thing is, and this is one of the things that I love about what you guys are doing, we're actually looking at the Bat Cam. So I've got a series of things hanging out here. So it's basically, and I'll fly in a photo in it for a minute. I didn't actually put it into the deck for this. But it's basically an original 7D Mark I, and I'm using the USB macro out to run straight into USB, and it's seeing it as a USB source. And there's a quick little moment where one of the application comes up that I think just kind of it came over from my old iMac that's, I think, a Canon application. But the point being is that, I was doing a stream last night, and a couple of my buddies were on there, and they're kind of streaming geeks. They were like, I love the color. And so
Yeah, color is the best part.
and you've got all the glass. So the amazing thing is it works really well. Now here's the other thing, is that so the other thing we've stumbled into this whole kind of bandwidth, CPU and GPU. So in a minute, I would love to geek out on the difference between which processes tax your CPU and which processes tax your GPU, because those are important. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about the research that I've done and then have your expertise, because I'm sure you know twice as much as I do on when you're asleep, and there's the saliva rolling out of your mouth. No, Doug, no. But basically, USB 3 has a very high throughput. But it's not just the data, it's its ability to power the devices. And this is one of the things about these cards. And so I figured, well, I want to know more about cards. I'll call Elgato. So I was like, it's just I got this 21-year-old gamer who gave me a dissertation on cards and USB, and he said, look, it's not so much that USB 2, because if you think about the megabits per second that you need to stream, you really should have you're somewhere between about 4 megabits per second, and then double that, and arguably 10 to just have lots of bandwidth going out on your stream. So I started doing the math, and I'm like, well, it's 400. The spec for USB 2.0 is 480 megabits per second. Like, if you think about it proportionally, it's not a matter of is there enough pipeline, but what this kid schooled me on, was like, well, that's not the problem. Is that you're powering, and basically what's happening is you're actually encoding this video and you're compressing it. All this process is happening in real time and going out to the web. So this is a hit on your CPU and your GPU. And the card, the reason you want to potentially run it on USB 3.0 is because it has to power the card, and it's grabbing all this data. Now, interestingly enough, my 4K is sitting here in the box. It showed up yesterday. But we're actually looking at this. I mean, I don't know about you. Ken, does that bother you?
It looks good to me.
That is basically, it's, oh, hang on. Wait. There we go. So, like, it is, if you look on the right-hand side there, That is that right-hand most capture card. Basically, there's a million of them. The printing's just a little bit slightly different. It's $13.99 for the cheapest one that I found on Amazon. So I'm basically paying like $20 for these little guys, and they work great.
Wow.
So you're looking at
$20?
this. You're looking at a 10-year-old camera hanging upside down that in Ecamm Live I could flip the image. But you got to remember that when you if you do a green screen and you put a virtual background, you got to actually take the image into Photoshop and turn the image upside down.
Sorry.
But the point being is this camera is awesome. It still works today. I've got a battery in there, so it's it's just like doing all the things you need to do. I'm not going anywhere near the HDMI. I mean, I don't know about you. There's no and this is the other piece of it, the frames per second part. Okay, so let's back up a little bit, and then I'm going to hand it off to you. But here's the deal. We in this hemisphere, basically our lights. You want to have your frame rate to do 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second because of the way fluorescent lights and our power works here. And you want to have it divisible by 30 or 60. The thing about 60 is you obviously get more frames per second, FPS frames per second. But the thing is, it's much more intensive in terms of the capture and the pushing out. And I play guitar, and actually kind of the slightly blurry thing that you get at 30 frames per second, honestly, it makes it look like I play faster. So it's like, more notes, but the same articulation. I'm down with that. So the idea is generally speaking, my suggestion is to stream out at 30 frames per second. It's going to keep everything nice and cool. And it also means that you're just kind of managing all this stuff. And one of the things about Ecamm Live is all your input sources, when they come in, you're actually going to see what the input source is coming in which one of these panes is that, sir?
The videos inputs.
Yes.
They just show up in the main window when you mouse over it.
So that's a big deal. All right. So
Yeah.
frame rate, the megabits. So the deal is that I use an application called Restream, which allows me tonight I'm going out to 3 different destinations, 2 spots on Facebook and 1 on YouTube. And what this enables me to do is basically use about 4 to 6 up megabits per second. And I do a speed test today. I got about 17. So I got plenty of extra bandwidth. So one of the rules of engagement, do not ever stream over Wi-Fi if you can possibly avoid it. It's not whether you've got it the up or the down. It's the fact that these things. All right. So would you be so kind as to define what a packet is? Because I'm about to step right off the cliff out of my area of expertise. But one of the reasons I understand that going with Wi-Fi is it's not a consistent pipeline, even though if it says that's what the speed is, you drop packets. So can you tell us about packet loss and all of that and geek out?
It's entirely true. It's something that a lot of people have never really thought about. From a computer science perspective, a Wi-Fi connection, you can imagine it like you are yelling to somebody across a field. And if you think of each word that you say as a packet of information, if the further away that you get or the noisier it is in the field, some of your words might get lost along the way. And of course, if you're downloading a file and some of the packets get lost, you don't end up with a broken file with letters missing out of it or a picture with like black spots in it, because the computer automatically detects that packet was lost along the way. Literally, like the radio signal got there and it was garbled. So it says, I need that packet again. Can you send it again? And the other side sends it again. So it automatically resends lost packets. That effectively lowers your bandwidth. A lot of people never really thought about like why the weaker your signal, the slower your speed. It's not because like it takes longer to get there or something. It's because so much information has to be repeated. So if you have a really weak cell phone signal or a really weak Wi-Fi connection, it's slower because half the information is having to get sent twice or 3 times or 4 times before the computer actually gets the intact, correct information. So, and another thing is that because of that, the information is not coming in a smooth channel. It's coming in little bursts, and what that means is that you may have a moment where there's absolutely nothing coming through, and then boom, all of the stuff that wasn't coming in a second ago all comes in at once. And so while you do a speed test and it might say you have 100 megabit, for live streaming, you may still see some glitchiness because the lower the goal is zero latency, but if you're down at zero latency, you have no buffer, no room to recover for that half a second where nothing is being received. So that's why platforms like Facebook have usually like a 10 or 20 second delay between the actual live stream and what viewers see, because that makes it so that if the stream pauses for a second and then catches up, that the viewers don't see the little spinning wheel come up. Now, I'll get into some of your other questions. Don't forget that if you're streaming 60 frames per second instead of 30 because you think it sounds awesome, you are making your computer do twice as much work. So 30 frames per second literally means the computer has to generate, composite, and encode 30 pictures a second. If you switch that thing to 60 FPS, now your computer has to do it 60 times a second. Your computer's doing for a lot of the work twice as much. Additionally, you're going to now be using double the network bandwidth. You're sending literally twice as much video data up to Facebook or YouTube or Restream. Additionally, if you are streaming 4K, the 4K stream is actually not twice the size of a 1080p stream, but 4 times the size of a 1080p stream. So you're actually compositing millions and millions of pixels that more than a 1080p stream. It's not going to be 4 times the bandwidth, but it's going to be much higher bandwidth that you're going to need. What you're going to be taxing at that point is your graphics card, because you are rendering and compositing an enormous surface, 30 or please, I hope not, 60 times a second, and sending it up to sending it into the compressor to encode for the internet. To answer your other question about encoding and CPU usage, I guess I could step back from a computer science perspective. Say you have like an HD frame. It's a 1080p frame is 1,920 pixels across and 1,080 pixels high. That's why it's called 1080. It's the height. That's roughly 2 million pixels. If that frame was uncompressed, it would be very big, a couple of megabytes. Obviously, each frame that is getting sent to Facebook or YouTube isn't a couple of megabytes. The computer is encoding it into what's called H.264, which is this amazing video streaming codec that makes live streaming possible, because it really encodes that stream it compresses that stream into a smaller size so it can be sent to the internet. Now, there's 2 ways that an encode can happen on a computer. It can either happen on the CPU, and that is very CPU intensive. Even if you have like an 8-core Mac Pro, encoding to H.264 on the CPU in real time, meaning the encode of one frame takes less than 1/30 of a second. That's a lot to ask. A really powerful computer can do it, but probably not much else at the same time. So, and then you're saying, well, how can I live stream from my phone then? How can I live stream from my Mac? And Ecamm Live doesn't show much CPU usage at all. It's because they've built special chips into the Intel processor to encode H.264 in the special chip. So the CPU isn't doing anything, which is awesome. So they started building these into Macs in about 2010. So that's why you cannot use Ecamm Live on a Mac older than 2010, because they just literally don't have the right chip inside in order to encode the H.264. Depending on what Mac you have, you may have the ability to do 4K on that chip. Older Macs don't, and so the capabilities vary. Phones have them, iPads have them, and Macs after 2010 have them. That makes it so that the CPU is not doing any encoding at all, which is why when you look at the CPU usage of Ecamm Live, it's usually hovering somewhere around 30 or 40%. If you were doing that on the CPU, you'd be maxing it out. And other apps, other live streaming apps have the option to use a software encoder, do it on the CPU, but you're just going to be draining your computer of power if you do that. So we don't even offer that ability at all. Now, a lot of people think that this happens on the graphics card. It actually doesn't. It's a really common misconception. It happens on what's called the Intel QuickSync chip, which is not related to the graphics card. What the graphics card is doing is even more interesting. The graphics card is handling two things. It's driving all of your screens. So if you have multiple monitors attached, the graphics card is doing that. But it's also doing the off-screen render. So it's taking the images from all your cameras and your overlays and whatever movies you're rolling, and it's kind of literally pasting it all together into one big image that then gets encoded by the other chip. That takes time and power, and that's where the graphics card comes in. Typically, a normal built-in graphics card is totally fine. People are always wanting to go out and invest in an expensive eGPU. You don't need it. It's not going to do a lot for you for Ecamm Live. The built-in graphics card is totally fine. The only time that you really need that eGPU is that if you're one of those people who likes to be surrounded by monitors, like you're a security guard, and have a bunch of big 4K screens all coming out of your Mac, then you probably want to go get an eGPU, because the little built-in graphics card in a laptop or an iMac is going to be really working really hard powering all those screens. And but otherwise, the GPU inside the Mac is fine for the purposes. The built-in GPU actually has advantages over the external one in that it's connected directly to the computer's RAM and CPU. It doesn't have to send the information over a wire. It's literally attached directly to the circuit board, if that makes sense. So for a lot of uses, it's better actually than an eGPU. And I'm getting kind of technical here. Glen just messaged me that there's a massive internet outage in the Northeast United States, and that is why he has not come back on the stream, because he has a Verizon fiber optic, which is a popular carrier here, and it sounds like it's completely down. That's crazy.
So does that mean that we actually, for once, actually say something positive about Comcast's internet?
The Comcast that I have is just killing it.
That's so funny.
Whereas Verizon, it sounds like, is completely out. So poor Glen is not only not going to be on the stream probably, but probably can't even watch his shows tonight. So
well, you can watch it on his phone.
Oh no, you're right. AT&T hopefully still up. But I think that answers a lot of what you were asking. I mean, it's complicated. I guess the answer is it's complicated. Hey, he's back. And one thing that we were are always kind of teasing each other about is people always want to add to their system to try to make it more powerful. if you're not a computer scientist, it's hard to know what's gonna help. So they'll say like, I'm getting weird sounds on my microphone. Do I need to get more RAM? Or they'll say, my picture looks really dark. Should I upgrade my internet connection? It makes sense. To most people, computers are very magical, and they can't really connect the dots between the problem they're having and the solution. So they'll just, to compensate for that, go out and buy like the very fastest Mac, max out its RAM, buy an eGPU, buy the highest internet plan available. And then they'll still have some weird sound on their microphone, and they'll just be like, I thought I had everything I could have. And the weird sound on their mic is just because like they forgot to turn off the echo cancellation checkbox. And I'm just like, and they're like, oh, can I return this iMac Pro now? And I'm like, yeah, you probably can. But it's hard to know.
Glenn, welcome
Hey,
back.
what did I miss, guys?
Your internet came back?
Yeah, it looks like a very large part of the eastern seaboard went down for about 20 minutes.
Wow. Hackers?
I don't know if I'm gonna stay connected or not.
It's a pleasure. We just got GPU and CPU 101, 201, and 301 for Mac. And that's actually the great thing. First of all, that's like caviar for my geek soul. So that was awesome because that's really important stuff. And I'll just actually, I'm going to bait the hook. I will dare you guys to do a video with me on my YouTube channel about CPU and GPU. I'm totally selling it tonight. I'm usually not that bad, but here's the thing: I'm eager. I bought all this stuff because I'm chomping at the bit to help people kind of go, I don't know, does it work? Does it not work? But this whole CPU GPU thing, the funny thing is, you just described the journey that I went on. So I'm on my new 2019 iMac. 64, 72 gigs of RAM. Like I went I went off. But my buddy Andrew, who's kind of part of my team, was like, you might want to check a refurb. I was going to get the iMac Pro. And I was like, you know what? Because I'm serious about this. I want to make sure that I have the headroom and the bandwidth that I need to do what I need to do. I got on the phone with a guy at Mac, and he said, you don't need that. As a matter of fact, we got a refurbished 2019. Buy that and save the $2,000. I was like, and here we are. So now, all right, a couple of things. One, anybody that is either not using Ecamm Live yet or is using Ecamm Live, if you're not watching Ken and Glen's Q&A sessions, I strongly advise you to do so because, one, you really get a chance to hear their heartbeat for what they do and why they do it, because they just want to make a great product. And yeah, at some point they'll sell it to, whoever on a Mac. You go into any major recording studio, it's a Mac. And so the fact is that you're not having to do this dance around, we got to make it work on PC. I came from the web development age. What was it? I used to know this. It was Mac for 72 DPI. What were Windows? You guys will know.
Oh, geez, they weren't 72. We were Mac people going all the way back to the 80s, so I don't know a lot about Windows.
Flash forward. So I used to go to the Macromedia and the Flash Forward conferences, like in 2000, when you guys were like, in any case. So, but the point being is that they had a different DPI resolution. It was actually for the Microsoft browser, dead and gone. Fortunately, Explorer. So Internet Explorer did not. So basically, if you were designing web, like the same size image would not display properly on the two different systems. It was nuts.
Right.
Yeah. So in any case, the ability to have a product that's designed specifically to work and leverage the architecture of the Mac is a genius thing if you're a Mac user. Now, the other thing about these Q&A sessions that I love is, like, for me, it's just like, it's giant pearls of wisdom, because they even the casual things that they're casually saying, it's just like as you unpack it, there's all these great layers. You just onion skin. So one of the things that they said here, and I'm going to have a little bit of a play fest here. They're like, what do you got all the keyboards there for, Doppler? Doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know what he's doing. So let's see if I can endeavor here, and let's see how we do here. So we are going over to the Ecamm, and now we're going to go over to, wait a second, why are you not showing up over here? Ooh, hang on. Oh, hang on. Wait. Oh, well, I spoke sooner than I thought I would. I'll have to fix that in the background. I've lost. Oh, that's really weird. It's just
Oh, the
gone.
top
Your
cam.
top-down cam.
Well, so basically what I've got. Oh, I know how I can get it. All right, here we go. We can do this. Let's see if I can add. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. So over here, we've got my other laptop. And so if I hit the space bar on the right keyboard. So let's see if YouTube actually grabbed that. That's from my album. So I basically keep getting copyright claimed on my own songs. But the point
Right.
being is that, that, let's see. Let's go to here and let's go back. There we go. No, oh, it kept it on that one. Oh, I hadn't saved that scene. All right, let's add me. Oh, Doppler. Oh, now I've done it. All right, hang on. Adding you guys. There we go. Oh, stop. How to destroy a stream in one. Oh, I'm plussing. There we go. Come on. Holy cow. I got the wrong flipping camera. Holy cow. The guy's losing it. There we go. And we're adding the adding. There we go. Holy cow. Sorry about that, guys. So the point being is one of the things you guys said is like, look, and this is one of the things that happens with audio that if you're not careful, before you're streaming, everything's awesome. It's beautiful. But what you guys said is, well, if I were going to run, and I wasn't even kind of like messaging. It was something that you guys, I basically, when I have kind of days when I just work myself to the point where I'm exhausted, I lie in bed and I watch YouTube on the big TV. It's that bad. But what's great about it is the brain's getting fed even once the body is at the point of collapse. And one of the things you guys, what's that?
To that point, I mean, to go, another thing that people can run into is that everything seems perfect until they go live. And that's when you're asking your computer to do a little bit more than it was doing before. And if you were on a Mac that's too slow, you're not going to notice until you actually hit the go live button. People say everything sounded perfect, everything looked great, and then I hit go live, and everyone's telling me that my it's breaking up or it's not working. We like to, say don't worry about getting like an iMac Pro, but it also isn't going to work perfectly well on a really slow old Mac if you're pushing all the buttons. Like, in other words, if you have like a 2013 MacBook Air, can you use Ecamm Live? Totally. Can you use Ecamm Live with 3 cam links connected and USB audio interface while doing a Skype call and bringing in titles from New Blue? No, the Mac, your Mac is too slow. You need to get a better Mac. So it really, like, what people are always asking us, what Mac should I get for Ecamm Live? I'm just starting out. It really depends what you're going to be doing with it. There is no catch-all answer because if you really are going to be pressing every button, as we like to call it, you need to be on the fastest Mac you can afford. If you're just going to be doing a basic live stream where you show your painting or you do your talking about whatever you're talking about, you can probably do it from any Mac. So it really depends on what you're going to need it for. Doug likes to push every button, so it's a good thing that you have your souped up, fitted out, 72 gigabytes of RAM, because you'll never have to worry about any of that.
That's not true. So I got the A10 back up and running. I actually I hit fade to black. It's amazing if you hit the FTB button and don't know that it stands for fade to black. It doesn't help much with the broadcast. So here is the other computer, and that's a 2018 MacBook Pro. And if you take a look at that many channels running Pro Tools simultaneously, YouTube police are on me. That is an awfully high channel count. I could probably get away with it on this machine. But the thing is, what starts to happen, especially if you're recording, because it's kind of like what you're talking about. Playback is one thing, But when you're actually encoding the audio and saying, hey, Pro Tools session, bring me the audio, but also I'm sending you audio simultaneously, there's more stuff going on there, and the computer's having to kind of move in multiple directions. So what, and this was one of the things you guys, I don't remember, who was it that said, is like, well, I would just use a second computer and connect it via HDMI. I was like, yeah.
Oh, right.
I think that was probably me.
It was awesome. I was like, yeah, because, and I would have gotten there eventually, but there's a buddy of mine that's a rather famous guitar player that I'm helping out, and he's got like a Fender Strat, a signature Fender Strat. I'm not going to drop his name, but he has a signature Strat. I mean, like, that's big time, and so we've been kind of walking through the different things, and I'm like, for what he wants to do, I'm like, you want to be using a second computer, because we've been having this conversation. We basically are headed down the exact same path, which is like super souped up iMac, but do you really want to take the chance that in the middle of a big stream where a bunch of people are watching, Pro Tools crashes? Now, the other thing, just for pistons and giggles, that happens on this machine that I didn't have happen on the old Mac is if every so often, and it'll happen not midstream, but when you kind of are doing something, you come back to different applications where Loopback and my Universal Apollo 8 interface, they just kind of forget my vocal mic. And so the traditional thing, and this happens with the Apollo every so often, you just have to turn it off. You power cycle. I mean, it's like, you guys know this. Sometimes you just power cycle stuff, and that does it. Unfortunately, that crashes my Mac. Here's the advice to anybody. First of all, a couple of fail safes. One, stream with nobody else or a friend that you can invite to your stream so they can monitor from afar. Are you hearing any of these things? The other thing is that close as many applications as you possibly can. I'm going to actually go to one of the important things that you're going to want to have an eye on, if I can actually get to the right application, which is, holy cow, what the heck is it? There we go, Activity Monitor. So this guy is super duper important, because that's telling me what's happening in terms of my usage. Now, there are a couple of things about this strategically that you want to keep in mind. First of all, I have way too many windows open, but the thing about kind of strategically what I'm doing is I asked these guys specifically because Chrome is supposed to be very famous for gobbling up a lot of graphic information and keeping one and taking a hold of it and then kind of taxing the CPU, as I understand. I could be wrong, but I know that I asked you guys about this before, and you don't use Chrome that much, you use Safari. So I was like, well, I'll use Safari. But the thing is that you want to have as few applications open as possible, so you're making it as easy for your computer to do it. You want to pause or just completely disengage Dropbox and Adobe if you're using that. What other resource things would you guys suggest doing such that you're kind of making it as stable an environment for your operating system / for your computer? What sort of stuff do you do and suggest?
I run a cloud backup. I don't know if you run like a backup system, but I run Backblaze, which is just one of these third-party cloud backup apps for the Mac, and that will just kick in whenever it feels like it. And one thing you do not want happening when you're trying to do a live broadcast is I'm just gonna like start zipping and uploading gigabytes of data on your network. So every once in a while I'll look up there on the top like, my Backblaze is running, and I'll pause that. The same thing with Dropbox, Google Drive, iCloud. You want to make sure that you're not doing any transfers there.
Yeah. And the thing you said about Chrome, that's really actually interesting. My daughter the other day said, why is my computer going so slow? And of course, me as the computer nerd, I was like, well, check it, Activity Monitor, see what's going on. She had, I think, over 100 Chrome tabs open, and each one running some little web page with, probably like animated GIFs on them or something. And why do you have 100 Chrome tabs open? She said, well, those are all my web pages. So I don't know. That's not how I operate. But if you have, like Doug was saying, every Chrome tab is its own process and eating up resources. And so if you have some news web page pulled up and it has a little movie playing or it's refreshing itself or whatever, just close all that stuff. close as much as you can.
Another thing I've noticed is an email app. You might look in Activity Monitor, and an email app's not using any CPU, but if you have it set to pull mail or check mail every few minutes or something like that, you'll actually see that CPU spike intermittently. So things that are doing like a periodic check, you want to make sure that those are disabled.
Another thing, speaking of spikes like that, I screen shared with a customer the other day who was having intermittent issues, and their computer was crawling with malware. I started poking around, and there wasn't anything in the CPU usage like when I looked, but they were running. They were all infected with malware. Sending everything they did to the malware company over the internet, and so using bandwidth and processing power that it shouldn't have been. So I helped them get that off there. So if you can invest in something like malware bytes and just keep doing a scan once in a while to make sure that that your live stream is not being listened to by malware writers and using up your bandwidth and computing power to steal your data.
That's awesome. I want to pull up a photo from Wayne Rutherford. This setup was on, I think, the Praise and Worship one that for Ecamm Live. You guys have a group for those folks. And first of all, I'm a bit of a gear geek, but this is a brilliant little setup. You guys can see that over there in Skype, right?
Yeah.
He's got what I'm sure is a 4K camera. It's got a viewfinder. What I love is that you've got the headphones. I think those are Audio Technica. So the camera person is got the ability to listen to any audio that's coming through the camera. It's got a little USB mixer there. And I read the notes, and Wayne had said that that's capturing just basically a stereo mix coming from the main board. That's a USB mixer that's sending that USB out into the little MacBook there, and then the iPad, they're using that for running graphics. And then there's a second set of headphones, basically an output for Ecamm Live. I am going to come back to the trio here, and I'm going to segue into Monsieur Evandar's question. I wish there was a way to use my iPad Pro's acceleration chip power to boost my Mac streaming capabilities. Any way to do that, guys? Because he's had a number of great questions, and I've wanted to pull Monsieur in. Besides kind of sharing some secondary process.
Yeah, iPad Pro's chip to boost the Mac streaming. You could use it as a second screen. That would be kind of cool. Then you could have your comments over there or something. But I don't know. I don't think the chip could actually help out the Mac. I can't think of a way.
But if the Mac
could be used
have
as a camera.
Hardware encoding in it.
You could use it as a second camera. That would be cool.
And you could also you could again offload some of the processing. So if you're doing some sort of secondary application. So what was neat about, again, Wayne's setup here is like all the graphic stuff is happening over on that little iPad. And I thought that's really clever. And it means that, again, you've got that separate visual space, and that setup is clean. I was like, whoa. I thought that was good. All right. And I love seeing Katie over here in the chat. She's a rock star. Just like
hi, Katie.
Here's the other thing that people can do is you can have little things, and I know that what's her name? The Beachbody woman. What's her name? You know who I mean.
Beachbody.
But no, she did the Beachbody thing, and now she's got she's in with the Cannell Clan, all these great content creators. I'm going to forget her name. She's actually going to be speaking at Sean Cannell's event, Grow with Video Live, and she's great. So basically, like when she's a teenage girl growing up in Detroit, as I understand, not super well off, she was like, I'm going to rent a parking lot, and I'm going to let people rent a space on the parking lot for their cars so they can sell their cars. Like she's, now she's a multi-millionaire. But, she's worked for every penny of it. So, but one of the things that they've been talking about is some different strategies about how you market and do all of this stuff. So, I would like to talk a little bit about the marketing and some of this stuff because here's the thing: is like I think a number of the people that are hanging out with us. And by the way, thank you again, everybody that's here and everybody that's going to be watching on the broadcast, the restream of the stream, the replay. One of the things that is a pet peeve of mine, and I will just go there, and I'll do it nicely. But I think everybody understands that we're in a paradigm shift of how we make money. And that's one of the most exciting things about this time. Like, this application has transformed my life. Like, do I have... Oh, am I really going to do that? All right, I'll do it in the background. Let's see what happens as I do that. I'm going to launch Premiere, and let's see what happens. But the point being is that basically I use this application 7 days a week. I do pretty much for everything that I do. And now being able to shoot video directly into this at 4K is just nuts. That capture functionality is absolutely nuts. So yeah, let's say I'm pulling up Premiere here in the background. So let's see. That's there it is. Good. All right. Yep. So what I'm going to do is basically give everybody a whirl. So now we're going to kind of go into the kind of the deeper end of kind of how this fits into a larger picture of what I think some of the people that I'm closest to that are watching this. We're wanting to stream and develop an audience. We're wanting to engage that audience. We're thinking about some sort of course curriculum, whether it's guitar lessons or because sooner than later I'm going to develop a course about streaming for musicians because I'm passionate about it and there's a lot to learn. But the point being is I think everybody's kind of going, how do we do this? So I want to talk a little bit about vibe and set and all of that stuff. So I spent a lot of time and a lot of money putting this, and I don't mean like that. I mean, took time, and the idea of a set is a presentation thing such that it's framing the experience. The micro rant is that if you go onto YouTube, I've got the 4K monitors, I've got the colored lights, I've got the perfect video, and I'm sitting in some Manhattan apartment, and it's so cookie cutter, it makes me want to vomit. It's good, but it's not. And the great thing is if you actually listen to Peter McKinnon, he's really just kind of like, find your thing. So what's really great is all the folks that are really... here's the thing. Not everybody is a Jimi Hendrix where the creativity is on 24/7. I get that. But find your vibe. Do your thing and hone it in. Build a set and think about a set. Think about what it is that you can do to kind of engage people in an exciting way that is you. Now, as it relates to using this application in a round-trip process, the video that I did to promote this was shot. One of the things about Ecamm Live is it is the best social media tool for video people that you will ever see, because you can go in and change the aspect ratio to 1:1. I've spent years basically taking 1080p, that is to say 1920 by 1080 video, and bringing it into Premiere and either cropping the edges or shooting it such that I'm like this in the frame with the guitar, and then sending it out square to Facebook and Instagram, because they want to see square video, especially Instagram on your inside your personal page on Instagram or whatever they call your pre-feed where all your stuff lives. It'll crop off the edges of your video and it looks like poo-poo. So the point being is being able to shoot literally in square inside Ecamm Live in the record mode it's a game changer, because it means that basically I've got my great camera, I've got I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at it. I totally, and I'm gonna make the noise. Hopefully that was, no, it's just being naughty. There we go. That is a Audio-Technica BP6073, I think is the model. It's like a $700 shotgun. But I'm serious about microphones. And the Audio-Technica folks are great. And in any case, I capture the audio there. I'm looking at the camera. It does it all through loopback. It's married together, and I can either push it directly to Instagram and Facebook from there, or if I want to do anything fancy, I can bring it into Premiere. This last video that I did, which is it wasn't for hire for PRS, but the folks at PRS are very aware of what I'm doing around this video. And basically what I did was I shot everything in Ecamm Live, and then I brought it into Premiere. And the audio was done in Pro Tools. So let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. And I make absolutely no promises. But let's see, is it going to be under A? There we go. All right, so what you're going to be looking at now is the timeline in Premiere. And basically, we've got this track, and I believe it's going to come into the loopback. So let's see what happens here. And first of all, look at that image, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the guitar. That's an Ecamm. Hang on a second. I got to come back. Hang on a second. Folks, that's in this streaming application. It's shot in 4K. I literally pointed the camera kind of at the guitar. And, like, that's what I got. It is absolutely nuts. So, all right, so let's see.
Really cool to hear. Sure.
What's that?
That's really cool to hear that you're able to use it for your recording. I mean, that kind of harkens back to the you were saying about, not having to worry about a cross-platform app and just being able to use the Mac technologies. Being able to do that nice 4K encode is a big part of that. Being able to use Apple's encoder and all of Apple's technologies is what lets us do that.
It's unreal. So let's see if this thing's going to play on the stream. And let me just jump back and make sure I've actually got. Yeah, hang on. Oh, I got to mute my mic.
Not getting.
All right, so. Sorry about that. So I was hitting the space bar repeatedly. It's an unhappy Mac when you're hitting it. Is like it's not responding. I didn't have that audio coming back in loopback. So, but what you were seeing there on the timeline, and I can actually find the video file and probably bring it in. But the point being is that the quality of those images, I'm shooting that. I'm tracking in Pro Tools at the same time, and the fact is that's just happening in real time. I'm literally sitting in my chair. I don't have to go out into the room. I don't have to kind of set up all that stuff, then come back and bring a card back to the computer, pull the data down, put it on the timeline. Oh no, there was a can in the background. I got to go back and do that again. To actually be able to sit there and in the production process be that close to the computer, it's unreal. It's unreal.
Nice.
Like just nuts. So then that basically, then gets pushed out onto YouTube. So as a content creation tool, that round trip process, again, where I came into technology pretty full on was when Macromedia was still Macromedia. And so there was a suite of products that they had for the round trip. So it was basically Dreamweaver, Fireworks, and Flash before Apple killed Flash, which was actually one of the least cool things Apple has ever done because Flash was amazing. What you guys would have done with ActionScript and Flash, because basically Flash had an audio component built into it that was high fidelity and didn't need RTMP, which was basically the streaming protocol where the video would go out and the audio would go out on a basically tethered together. And that was for those of us who go real far back. That was what real audio and real video streamed out on. So basically, you had separate pipelines sending your video and your audio, and in theory, those packets stayed in sync together. But it was actually real video and real audio was actually pretty cool for what it was. With Flash, it was all together, and there was a scripting language. It was basically based on JavaScript called ActionScript that enabled you to create amazing animations and bundle the audio and the video together in it. and Apple just killed it because they were a competitor. Totally not cool.
I don't.
Yeah,
I'll be
they
honest. I
had
don't.
some
I
other
don't
reasons.
hear a lot of people saying that they miss Flash, but that audio video component really was great. I think that. I mean, we lost Flash animations. Remember Flash? I mean, that was a national treasure. Just that those goofy animations with the sound effects going along with it.
Well, actually, Doug, you might not know this, but the RTMP protocol that they developed is actually what is still in use for live streaming. That's what the protocol that Ecamm Live is using to send the data to Facebook and YouTube, which is kind of nuts. So that little bit of protocol and invention that they had there is actually still in use.
It's
No one has come up with anything better.
what here's the thing. This is like HTTP. It's still working.
Yeah,
So that
brilliant.
access gets us to another. I realize it's getting late there. So when you guys are like kind of like just kind of go, hey Doppler, I got to go to bed. I would like to
Actually,
talk
do go to
about
get
the
to bed
difference of,
soon.
of using RTMP as you use a stream key versus actually just going directly to Facebook or YouTube, and that's I promise anybody that's watching that's ever struggled with taking a YouTube event live, like they have made taking an event live nearly as complicated as they've made taking the Google ads for YouTube as complicated as they possibly can. But the idea
Oh
of
God,
kind
it's
of
so complicated.
what's that?
It's so weirdly complicated. Everything Google does.
It's amazing. So I would like to hear your guys' thoughts because first of all, let me back up a step. Most of you, my guess is, who are watching, want to be pushing to Facebook and to YouTube. In the current version of Ecamm Live, you cannot yet multi-stream. I have heard that maybe at some point they may or may not be adding that type of functionality. The downside of having that type of functionality is that unlike when I go out to restream, I basically am sending one stream that they're multi-streaming out. So basically they're shouldering the load when I'm actually going to 3 different locations. So basically if I'm at about 3 megabits per second, it's about 9, but I'm only sending out 3. And for somebody that's got a small connection, that is going to affect your world a lot. Now these guys are geniuses, so I'm sure whatever solution they'll come up with is going to be great. But the point being is that one of the things that you can do is you can use an RTMP, and I've found that by using an RTMP and a stream key, that it seems to be a little bit more secure in terms of grabbing a connection, as opposed to sometimes when you go to stream and it's just like it just doesn't always want to stream when you're wanting to, and that's especially tonight I had a nice 15-minute lead. This was an important show to me, not that the rest aren't, but I was like, there's no way I'm dropping the ball tonight. But I've sat there waiting for YouTube to connect. I've sat there while Facebook is just having a conniption. And I've also used other applications whose names I won't mention, who stream at 720p instead of 1080, that make it easy to bring a guest on. But I understand you guys also have a guest function coming on soon. But I'm curious to hear your guys' take on this multi-streaming thing, and whether you're using a stream key when you suggest it, or if you don't. And let me just back up a step for those who are going, what is he talking about? Most people just want to go live to Facebook and it's all good. The challenge is there are times that you actually want to test stuff, and sometimes when you just press go live, everybody in the world's seeing it. That is a problem. Now you can set up a second account that's a ghost account that nobody sees. But then when it's time to go live, then you're like, oh, I'm streaming the ghost again. I'm not where I need to be. It's all this other drama. So one of the neat things that you get with an RTMP is you get a little bit more control on the back end to be able to just make those, if you call Facebook and YouTube an application, I found that I'm able to control them a little bit more as opposed to them bouncing me around the room as I'm desperately trying to go live at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm curious to get your thoughts
way
about
to-
that, and maybe it's just my inexperience and your expertise will
One way
guide
to
me.
think about it, Doug, is that when you're streaming to Facebook or YouTube, you're always using a stream key essentially. You're getting a key from their server, and then you're gonna use that to send the data to that platform. When you click, the difference is when you click Go Live in Ecamm Live to the Facebook or YouTube settings there, what's going to happen is Ecamm will say, "Hey Facebook, give me a stream key for Doppler Gear Garage," and then it's going to say, "Okay, I'm creating a broadcast, and here's the stream key," and then once we get that, we'll start streaming. Whereas if you're getting a stream key from Facebook or YouTube, you're basically skipping that step.
And restream.
So it's giving you a little more power over what's going to happen when you click Go Live. Personally, I would never use a custom stream key because I never see a huge advantage to it. But when you think about it, you're clicking Go Live, and when you're clicking Go Live, you want everything to always go right. You don't want anything to be left up to chance. And when you're clicking Go Live, it's going to be negotiating with Facebook or YouTube, trying to figure out where to put the broadcast. That is definitely some place where something could go wrong. So I do agree with you that using the stream key leaves out a little bit of that commotion when it's starting. But what you will lose when you use a stream key is you'll lose the other integration that Ecamm Live has with Facebook and YouTube. So when you're using the custom stream key option, you're not going to get a viewer count, reaction count, or comments in the live stream.
Because we don't know really know what post you're going to at that point. We only have the stream key. We don't know we don't even know where you're streaming to. We don't know that you're going to Facebook. We don't know what group you're going to, so we can't get the viewer count. We can't get the metadata, really.
And let me back up and be clear that when I was talking about going on, it was not through Ecamm Live, because I'm always, basically, if I'm streaming both to Facebook and to YouTube simultaneously. And the nuance of that is that I'm one of the little hacks that I've got is that my Facebook personal page, I get way better traction with my posts because Facebook isn't trying to tax me. So it's kind of a little hack. They haven't kind of figured out that I'm kind of using it not just as a personal page. So Doppler's Gear Garage, if I wanted to reach the people, and it's I haven't actually streamed there for a couple of weeks like an idiot. But now that I'm kind of like, all right, every week I got to be going there, and you can use it for events. And the thing is that what you're not able to do from Restream is, because it's a page, I can't get it to stream without a stream key, to get it to stream only to myself, such that it's private, to run test streams. And so, my whole thing is I want to test everything just to make sure it's up and running. But I want to back up and point out one of the really, really important things that as you get into this, if you're starting this and you don't know about, is that there's a function that's where I've been pulling the stuff in from chat. It's basically, if you use a stream key, the chat that automatically comes from either Ecamm Live or in conjunction with Ecamm Live and Restream, it's pulling that in. When you use a stream key, it doesn't pull the chat in. And I actually learned that from Luria Petrucci. She was like, no, you can't do it. So that feedback of being able to have that come there and not be distracted down in the feeds is the thing. So, gentlemen, it's 10:43 there, and you guys probably have a bunch of coding left to do. So, as we kind of begin to wrap things up, are there any kind of parting thoughts that you guys have, and any things that you would like to say? Hey, we've had a lot of requests around certain types of features, and we're thinking hopefully it's going to be about X period of time, and or anything you guys want to say, or honestly, anything that you want to say.
I would potentially just say, musicians watching this, get in touch, make sure that we are hearing your feedback, and that we're making the app of your dreams, because we started off by saying, we designed Ecamm Live as a live streaming product from the beginning, but we're learning as we go, and we really want to learn more about how musicians are using the app. So get in touch, let us know what you want to see, what you need, what you're having to add third-party software in to do that Ecamm Live doesn't do. We want to hear all about it. And also, if you want to if there's some sort of area of expertise, like a specific product or tool or software package that you know a lot about, and you get the feeling that we don't, also get in touch with us. Work with Katie. We'd love to have people do deep dives into their different software packages and how those integrate into Ecamm Live. That'd be totally cool. Ken?
Yeah, I would just second most of what you said. I mean, we never could have foreseen a couple of years ago when we built this situation that we're in today, where musicians are relying on tools like Ecamm Live to stay in business. I mean, they're not performing shows, they're not in front of live audiences in person, but they're in front of live audiences on the internet. Right when the pandemic started, I worked with a customer to help him solve an audio problem, and I ended up subscribing to his stream, and he just plays the most beautiful music every day and puts out a tip jar, and he's just a first mover with that. If you're a musician and you're not doing live streams yet, this may be what we're going to be doing for the rest of the year. So to start building that audience, start getting your live stream out there, whatever platform that you like best. But it seems like that's where we are now with music, as well as dozens of other professions that are using this tool to keep their business going and stay connected with customers. And that's the final word before I fall asleep, because I got up at 5 this morning, and I'm dropping fast, fading fast.
And so fortunately, I had the good sense to go, let these guys get out of here. So anybody that's still watching, I'm going to start talking about how I use Ecamm Live in combination with Zoom and just go through a little bit of a Zoom thing. But these gentlemen have coding and sleep and families and kids to attend to, not necessarily in that order, but it's been really fun hanging out. And, you guys just kind of echoed, this, the pandemic has been a disaster on so many different levels. I've socially distanced, and your guys' application has been basically my epicenter for everything that I'm doing. I was using another streaming thing, 2 others for a minute, and my buddy Chad, who basically runs the biggest Line 6 forum or Facebook group, was like, well, you just need to be using Ecamm Live. He watched one of my streams. He was just like, dude, you just need to do this. So anybody that's out there kind of looking for, if you were a Mac person, if I may echo what Chad said, you just kind of need to do this. There's just so much that's there. Gentlemen, what a great pleasure. Thanks so much for all the hard work. And I just, I love being able to be a creative and creating via your application. So thank you.
Thanks for having us on the show. It was a
it
big
was really
pleasure.
fun.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Have a great night.
Good
Bye,
night,
Doug.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Zoom. First of all, I teach every Saturday a really, really long day. I'm really thankful. I have amazing students, amazing people, and they've been just so faithful through all of this. And Zoom is basically my jam. And so what I do is I take this capture here and bring it from Ecamm Live through what's called a virtual webcam. And so the neat thing about this is it enables me to do a number of very cool things. So I'm going to, in the background here, see if I can fire up a meeting in Zoom so I can show you the really, really important functionality that you're going to need to know about, such that you get great audio when you're working with Zoom. And the thing about Zoom is it's an amazing application. I can't say enough good things about it. And it's something that I'm increasingly it's becoming part of how I make a living. Same with Ecamm Live. Kind of what those guys had to say was really right on the money. Yep. Launch meeting. Yeah, system prompts. Come on. Yeah, allow. There you go. Good. All right. So let me go into this meeting here, and I'm going to walk you through the most important things about this. There we go. And I am so not using that camera. All right. So, what's that going to be? All right. You know what? For right now, we're going to use Pro Tools. Just that way I don't get an echo back. So let me jump over into Zoom here. So let's do this. By the way, if you have any questions about teaching guitar on Zoom, now would be the time. Now would be the time. The time is now. Not that application. We want Zoom US. Zoom meeting. There we go. Okay, so now here is the important part of this. Oh, wait. Was that Eric? What's going on? I love Saturday. I love Saturdays too. It's so cool. So, all right. So here's the dealio. First of all, I've got a bunch of people that I know that, let's see, I'll do this in the background. That'll work. You always have to be careful sometimes with cameras. You can get a camera echo. So I'm going to do that. And so I'm going to set this up here as this camera. All right. Hopefully I'm going to do this without any major disaster. All right. I'm going to go here. And that's going to be that. You know what? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do what it is that I'm trying to do here. All right. I'm going to have to do something slightly different. All right. So let's use, let's just imagine that you're looking at the desktop cam. Oh, my word. No, let's not do that. Holy cow. Sorry, I'm almost there. All right, there we go. All right, so hopefully we're not going to get a feedback loop here. No, I think this is going to be fine. All right, so now I'm going to bring you over into Zoom US. And now what you're going to see is you're actually going to... No, we got the echo. Gosh darn it. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Dang it. Oh, because it's tracking that. Oh, gosh. Oh, poop. All right, hang on. I got to change camera sources. It did exactly what I didn't want it to do. Hang on. Let me go with... All right, we're just going to be doing a Pro Tools training in Ecamm. So I apologize for that. Gosh darn it. All right, so here we are. All right, so we're in the Zoom meeting now, okay? And as I'm in Zoom here, this right here in the upper left-hand corner is the most important thing you're ever going to need to get great audio in Zoom. So, and it's kind of backwards. So I learned about this from two people, Jeff Slingluff. Give me just a moment. I will answer questions and do me a favor, flood me with questions, and I will answer them all now because I can see them coming in. Thank you, Tom. So this little guy right here for turn on original audio is a big deal. Now, you think turn on original sound. Okay, so the deal is what you really want is this thing to be in this mode where it says turn off original sound. But what it really means is that the original sound is actually on. It's totally backwards. So you want it to say off. And really, if you think about it, it's saying, oh, do you want to turn off the original sound? Click on the button. But the dealio is you want it to say turn off original sound. Now, here's the deal, is that inside this menu right here next to the little microphone here, if you go to the audio settings, and I learned this from one of the guys from when we did the jam. Hang on, let me make sure that pop-up is tracking through. And it's not. Hang on. Let me just do one thing. I'm going to need to make a small change in Ecamm here. So I've got that pop-up window, hopefully. Settings, good. Good. All right, there we go. All right. So what I did was I just kind of hit the little up arrow next to the microphone there. And now I'm in this settings window here. And so the deal is, down on the lower right-hand side, there's an advanced tab. And I'm going to totally forget the guy from Muscle Shoals' name, but he's the one that hit me to this. Let's say, for example, I'm at Ecamm Live, and I don't see this. All right, watch this. Oh, sorry, I'm back in Zoom. Hang on one second. Zoom is a little unhappy with me because, Ecamm Live, because I'm toggling between different things. All right, what it is, there's different layers to the application. So now you're looking at basically the capture from my Blackmagic card, switcher into Ecamm Live. So that's video. So that is to say, if I go like this, all right, there it is. Okay. Thank you, Michael Brock. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Chris Stark saves the day. So what's happening here is that I am taking the first computer, the 2018 MacBook Pro, and I'm basically sending the audio from there, and I'm using my Universal Audio Twin there, and then I'm sending that data through, the video is coming through the ATEM Mini Pro, and I'm actually taking the audio out of the first UA interface and running into the second interface, one for each computer. So this is Pro Tools running on the laptop. And that in turn is coming into Zoom. So if, say, I'm giving a lesson on Pro Tools or something. All right, so the deal is now you notice that that little menu there isn't there at the top. So what I have to do now is I go down, like I mentioned before, and I need to be here, there we go, is that down below here, and you should be able to see my mouse movement, good. I hit this up arrow, and that launches the menu that you can't see because it's in the layer above this application-wise. So just imagine that you can see where my mouse is. There's a little up arrow, and that when you hit that, it launches another window. And I'm going to jump back over into Ecamm, and now I'm going to show you that window. No, oh, okay, hang on. I actually have to launch that all the way, so hang on. All right, there we go. All right, now I can grab that puppy. All right, so we are over here, and Zoom, there we go, settings. All right, so this is kind of like a pane that's floating above there. All right, so when you go over to the audio tab, and so you've got all these different tabs where you can select stuff. But in the audio tab in the lower right-hand corner, there's this advanced tab. You select that, and right here is where you select the show in meeting option to enable original sound from microphone. That is a big deal. I also leave the suppress persistent background noise disabled and suppress intermittent background noise disabled. And then you hit this guy, and now let me just jump back to the right layer inside Zoom here real quick. And now we're back in the meeting. Okay, so that has now brought this thing up here. And what you want to make sure you do is have this set so it says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm clicking on it inside Ecamm. What an idiot. There we go. So it's set to it says off. And what it really means is it's getting the original sound. And so why this is such a big deal is it means it's capturing the actual original sound of the microphone, and it's not giving you the processed version of that. So any of you that have done anything in Zoom know what I'm talking about. You're playing, it sounds great for about 5 seconds, all of a sudden it just disappears into this din, and it's like, and it sounds like guitar, like underwater. Zoom sees your guitar and echo as, wait for it, echo, background noise. Tries to pull it out. That's why it suppresses it. It makes it go away because it doesn't recognize it as a human voice. So, you know, there are instances where that's really good. Say you're in a cafe where there's a lot of background noise. It helps reduce that if you have to do a video conference in a situation like that. So the point being is for Zoom, I have had, and I'm using my Universal Apollo 8, and actually thanks to Chris Stark, you know, Chris sent me down this journey of the whole reason I ended up, and I would have ended up there later than sooner, was Chris was like, hey, I can hear some of the direct signal of your guitar. I would never have known if he weren't kind of. Here's the thing: it's they're nice ways to say, hey, are you aware that you're sucking right now, as opposed to like, dude, you're terrible. You should really stop. Well, Chris just in a really nice way was like, hey, I'm hearing some of the direct guitar, and I was like, oh, I knew exactly what it was. I knew I couldn't fix it in that moment, but I knew it was a problem that I had to address. And here is the short version of this. Is that if you're using some sort of audio interface like the Apollo, and you're using some sort of amp modeling technology inside the box there. So the Plini plugin, which I fell in love with, the stuff that Miko makes, all that great stuff. Somewhere inside your computer, that direct signal is still floating around. Just because it's feeding the plugin does not mean that that direct signal just went there. It just kind of, the expression I use, I hope I don't offend anybody, it's just kind of pissing around, and it comes out your mains. And I don't mean these mains, I mean your stereo feed that goes out into the internet. It's a very frustrating experience. And so Loopback, the application that we talked about before, and I can pull it up here. Give me a moment. Loopback, alphabetically, starts with L. This shenanigans here is basically a virtual patch bay. And so I've got just a range of different instruments. I should say